We are back. That's right, we're back. It has been almost a week and a half since my last upload. I missed you guys, I really did. But I was at the Fight Laugh Feast conference, and it was quite a conference indeed. You know, every time I come back from one of these, I am energized, emboldened, excited, and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's just such a good time. It's good to see everybody, a lot of familiar faces at this point. And so thank you for everybody who introduced themselves to me and my family. I actually brought my whole family this time, which was a challenge because the kids were all getting into everything. But that's okay. That's okay. If I had a chance to meet you, thank you so much for introducing yourself. So many just encouraging words from people. So many interesting stories. There was some people that I hung out with on the last night at a bar. I went down to the bar to watch the Mets game, and I spent some time with a few people, and it was just really good, very encouraging, lots of good conversation. One thing that I find interesting is there's always a difference between like someone that has been at these conferences or been around these people for a long time, and then like first timers, because there's always a few first timers. Look, I dragged my brother to the conference, or my friend, or something like that, and they've always got sort of a wide-eyed look, and like they have not experienced anything in Christian circles like the Fight Laugh Feast conference. It's a completely different vibe. There's just no question about it. One thing I did want to mention, this is a funny conversation I had. Well, actually, this is a conversation I had multiple times, and that tends to happen too at these conferences. I think everybody's like on the same wavelength here. Like we all have these independent thoughts, but they're like the same thought. And one thing that happens to me pretty much all the time is people will come up to me and they'll introduce themselves and they'll say, "Hey, wow, you're taller than I thought you would be, or you're bigger than I thought you would be." And sometimes they'll like kind of in a low key, like nice way say, on camera, I look like I might be pretty weak or skinny or something like that. And I always take it as a compliment, of course. But I understand what this phenomenon is. Like I felt the same way. Like the first time I met Gabe and Toby and some of these guys, Jared Longshore, Matt Williams even. The first time I met a lot of these guys, I was very surprised at their stature. Like they've got broad shoulders, they're big. You meet Gabe Wrench and you're like, "Hi, Gabe, nice to meet you." Like you're like shaking hands upwards. Like these people are like they're big, they're big guys. And so I was talking to one guy, and he had mentioned the same thing to me that taller than I thought he thought I would be. And when I got on the stage in the beginning to introduce my company, that I just was bigger than he thought I would be. And we had a conversation, and it's like, yeah, and I asked him, I said, "Have you ever been to any other Christian conference?" And he was like, "Yes." And he was going the same place I was going, because when you go to some of these other conferences, the men aren't like that. You know what I mean? They're not like that. And I don't want to be mean, but like, the typical guy that goes to a Gospel Coalition conference physically is going to look a whole lot different than the typical guy that goes to the Fight Laugh Feast conference. And I don't know what that is. There's just like there's a grit factor, I think, with some of these guys. But the good news is, and this is not useless, by the way. This is not just a useless commentary. Think about this. We've seen some of the videos of the FBI sort of raiding, abortion ministry people and stuff like that. And, I'm not black-pilled, so I don't think they're going to start rounding up, Christians just, willy-nilly. But if they did, I don't think it's going to happen, but if they did, it's going to be like, the Fight Laugh Feast kind of guy. Like, it's not just going to be Fight Laugh Feast, but like those kind of guys, like the troublemakers. They're the ones that are going to be rounded up and put in jail and prison and stuff like that. If anybody, like nobody's going to be rounding up Russell Moore to put him in prison. Like, that's not going to happen, obviously. But the good news is, if you're one of these sort of rowdy, sort of troublemaker types, if you do end up in jail and prison, you're going to end up in there with other people that can likely hold their own. So we can form our own like little Christian gangs and stuff like that. That'll be good, man. We can at least defend ourselves, right? Because obviously we're not going to go attacking people, stealing their canteen, but but at least we can hold our own. Like honestly, like I'm not joking. Like if I feel like I'm a decent fighter. Like if I had to defend myself, I could defend myself. But I'll be honest, like if I was in a dark alley and I saw like Toby and Gabe coming towards me, like guys like that, I'd be a little worried. I mean, they're large men. It's very interesting how that works out, and people notice. Like, it's just funny. I've had this conversation a number of times. There's something that goes along with sort of the attitude that also translates into, you know, how you take care of yourself. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. In any case, so that was just kind of a funny thing. There's a lot of conversations I had many times that I do want to share with you, and we will be doing that in the coming weeks. But one thing I did want to say, this is something that was a consistent theme, because the people that go to the Fight Laugh Feast conference, there's not a whole lot of black-pilled people there. There are some, for sure, but there's not a whole lot of black-pilled people at the Fight Laugh Feast conference. There's a lot of confidence, there's a lot of positivity, and not the empty kind of positivity. I'm talking about the kind of positivity that is due to the fact that we have an all-powerful, good God who loves us. He's our Father, and He wants good things for us, and He's vouchsafed our journey. And there's just a sort of there's a joy that comes with that, right? Even as the world around us is lost its mind and it seems to be falling apart, and God's coming in judgment, there's a joy knowing that God is there and God is good and God has made promises to His people and God's got our back. There's a joy there. So there's a lot of positivity. And one conversation that I had again and again and again is this idea of resisting the powers that be, right? Resisting the zeitgeist. Everyone wants to do that, and everyone wants to rebel and revolt against the zeitgeist. But we all know that it's not the kind of revolution that you see in the movie The Patriot, right? Like, we're not talking about a violent revolution. We're talking about some basic things that you can do as a Christian to refuse consent to the demonic system that is just on the march so aggressively right now. On your screen, you see this picture. We've got this image of a man who's obviously very sickly looking, and he's obviously a slave. He's got the chain around his neck, and his mouth is like sewn shut, and he's just a very submissive, obviously a beaten man. And it says pornography and the Western man. And we understand that pornography has been used as a weapon against us. And just the over-sexualizing of everything has been used as a weapon against us. It creates docile men. It creates men who are deep down inside, even if they don't admit it, they're ashamed of themselves. And, I've experienced this myself. Even before I became a Christian, I lived like the prototypical pagan life. I lived in New York City. I had a ton of money, way more money than I needed, and I would blow it on all kinds of things. And I'm not going to go into all the details, but just, I was a pagan. I was a sick individual, and there were things that, and I had some twisted friends too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I wasn't alone out there, but I had some twisted pagan friends. And we got involved in all kinds of shenanigans with each other. But there were some things that I would get involved with that I wouldn't even tell my friends. I was ashamed. And when you're ashamed, you can't live the free life. You know what I mean? You can't live with joy. You can't, there's no mirth. There's no pep in your step. There's like a weight that's weighing you down. And there's a psalm, I forget which psalm it is, and I don't even know the exact quotation, but in this psalm, David is describing what it felt like, what it was like to not confess his sins, like to be hiding them, right? And I believe the way it describes him, if I'm not mistaken, is that like his bones were wasting away from the inside out. And that is a real thing. That's a real thing. And so, pornography and other kinds of degeneracy, going into a lot of debt and running up your credit cards and, getting involved in all kinds of degenerate behaviors, not becoming a family man. You know what I mean? Because I've got other things to do. I'm just going to have sex with a million women and things like that. And this is the things that are sold to us as like almost like a rite of passage. It's cool to do this. Every movie that I would watch, after high school or even during high school, would glorify this perpetual lifestyle of just indulgence, right? And they would portray, settling down as something that was to be avoided. It wasn't fun, you know what I mean? And things like that. And having your wife and loving your wife, and then having your children and loving and teaching your children, that's for the birds, right? And that's what's promoted to us. And even Kanye, Kanye was talking about that fat black woman, the one who got in a skin tight outfit and played that stupid flute, that crystal flute. Yeah, I mean, if you ever needed to know we were in a downfall as a society, all you gotta do is look at that picture. But Kanye's talking about that, and that kind of stuff is promoted, and even in the commercials, all you see if it's a health company, then the commercial is someone who's unhealthy. It's pushing all this unhealthy stuff, and it's like this is what's promoted to you. And the reason it's promoted to you is because when you're fat and you're indulging in pornography, and when you're indulging in degenerate behavior and drugs and alcohol and all of these things, like, you are docile. You are easily controlled. You are a slave to the next, hit of dopamine, wherever you can get it. That's what you're a slave to. And it becomes this situation where you actually don't ever move the needle ever. You can't do anything. You just receive things, and I've been talking to people like, why did so many people, they got the vaccines, they got 4 or 5 vaccines. I don't even remember what number we're up to now, because I don't care. I don't follow it. But then one of them will give them, the droopy face or whatever, and they'll get on YouTube and they'll say, I'm still so grateful for it, as their face is like falling off. I'm still so good. I'll do it again. Like, how do you get to that place? And you get to that place by being beaten into submission every day and being so ashamed of yourself that you just, any little tiny dopamine hit that you can get at this point is going to be what you go for. And you get a few likes for putting a brain dead video of you being so thankful that you got a vaccine injury. And that gives you a little something, right? When you watch the next porn video, it doesn't feel that good, but you're like, it's a little something. And it's just like, this is where we're at. So, but the thing is, though, that everyone at the conference, though, they recognize this, and they realize that our rebellion, our revolution, all of the things that you need to do share 2 awesome attributes. Number 1, they're easy. They're basic. It's not complicated. If you want to rebel, don't watch porn. If you want to rebel, eat right. If you want to rebel, start a family and love your kids and raise your kids. If you want to rebel, don't be addicted to drugs. Don't drink alcohol until you're inebriated. These are simple things. So they share that in the fact that they're simple. The second thing is that they're all good for you too. You know what I mean? They're all good for you. These are not complicated, difficult things that put you at risk. Like, not watching porn doesn't put you at risk of anything. In fact, it's helpful. Not being an alcoholic or a drug addict doesn't put you at risk of anything. In fact, it's helpful. Raising a family doesn't put you at risk of anything. In fact, God says it's a blessing. I talked to one guy who put such an interesting twist on this, and I don't even think he was trying to make a spiritual point, but he was talking to me about how he's trying to grow his business, and he's having some difficulties recruiting and finding the right people for the right positions. And he said, if I would have known it would have been like this as I'm trying to grow my business, I would have had more kids. And he just said it kind of matter of fact. It wasn't like, I don't think he was trying to make a spiritual point. I don't think he was even referencing anything in the Bible, but it's just, he just recognizes this as a reality. Well, the Bible actually told us that, but he just recognized it as a reality. Like, it would have been good. It would have been helpful for him to have more kids. He could have been taking more dominion than he already is, right? And that's what he's desiring. He's taking dominion for Christ, growing his business. It would have been easier with more kids. That's true. That's true. So many people are realizing that the real revolution that's happening right now, the real rebellion, is to love your wife and have children and teach them to love and obey Christ. That's how you do it. That's the Great Commission, guys. You want to disciple the nations. You want to command the future. If you want to baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, you want to teach them to observe everything Christ commanded. The obvious, most basic way to do that is to have children and to baptize them and to teach them. That's how you do it. That's how you accomplish the commission. Obviously, there's evangelists too, but we're not talking about complicated things here. This is the thing. Our rebellion is basic and it's healthy. You don't want to be this slave. You don't have to be. That's the thing. The powers that be, they've done a number on us, man. Ever since we were young, ever since we were in school, I talked to so many people about this as well. There's just the programming that happened ever since we were young. And all of it was just designed to turn us into this guy, into a slave. And now it's getting more open. You know, they have porn units in high school and stuff like that. All of it's getting more open now. But it was always there. It was always fundamentally there. Now the demons are just revealing themselves a little bit more. But the demons were there before, and they did a number on us. And we need to understand that everything that they told us was normal, everything that they told us was good, if you want to be a good citizen, everything that they trained in us from a young age was designed to turn us into this guy. And we're now realizing that we don't want to be this guy. There's freedom in Christ. You can be a bondservant of Jesus Christ, and there's massive freedom there. You see, freedom is worthless unless it's freedom that actually has Christ as its foundation, Christ's law, Christ's commands as its foundation, the freedom to obey Christ. And there's so much joy in the things that are obedient and that are consistent with Christ's nature. There's so much joy in that stuff, and there's nothing but misery and shame in the other kind of freedom. See, freedom isn't a good in and of itself. You're talking about the freedom to sin, the freedom to commit crimes, the freedom to do all this stuff. That's worthless kind of. That's how you end up like this. Your freedom is slavery in that case. So many people are getting it, man. This conference it's so encouraging because it's just such a reminder. We're not alone. And so many businesses are in the works, and even some of the businesses that were started last year, they're so much further along this year. And it's like, man, well, I'm planning on adding this and doing that. And it's like, wow, it's like, this is amazing. Like, the parallel economy is happening, guys. It's happening. And this is the thing, like, the infrastructure that we need to survive the coming collapse, it's in the process, right? It's being built. We're going to make it, guys. You don't understand. We're going to make it. And the Fight, Laugh, Feast conference is just such a good shot in the arm to remember that this is all happening, and God's people are everywhere, and God's people are working, and they're happy to work, and they're joyful to work, and they're not going to be sad and apologize and bend the knee to your ridiculous rules anymore, world system. And I include Gospel Coalition and all these kind of the Great Reset pastors. They're in the world system right now. They'll demand that you apologize. They'll demand that you disavow Doug Wilson. They'll make all kinds of demands, and when they do, laugh, man. It's awesome. I don't even know the word. I talk all the time, and I'm out of words. It's just a great experience. But yes, our revolution, it's easy, it's simple, and it's good for you. That's the thing, man. In any case, so much more to say about the conference. God bless you guys. And if you have any questions or need anything or anything at all, please don't hesitate to message me. I'd be glad to get I'm glad to get all the messages, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. I'm trying to catch back up with work right now, but in any case, yeah. And just once again, if you came up to me, there was this one woman at the end when we were at the bar with those people that she was just so nice and just said that, the content that I put out there, because of the humor, because of the information, it helped her get through a really rough time in her life. And man, it just made me want to cry on the inside. Not on the outside, though. That would be embarrassing. Just kidding. God bless you all. I love you. Hope you found this video helpful. God bless.